Ask Reddit.
Serious, were you ever close to being killed, raped, kidnapped, robbed? If so, how did you avoid it, get away? When I was a young boy, probably 12 or 13, my dad and I took a spontaneous vacation to Duluth, and since I'd never been there, I'd honestly never been on vacation before, so I was so excited to experience being somewhere awesome just for the fun of it. We had decided before leaving that we'd save money by skipping the hotel and sleeping in the truck in a rest lot. He'd sleep on an air mattress in the back of the truck with a topper, and I would sleep in the cab. We found a rest stop in town and went to sleep. At one point in the middle of the night, I had to use the restroom, so I left the cab and used the men's room at the rest stop. There was one other guy in there using a urinal. The best word I can use to describe him was soggy. He looked like a mess. I'm pee shy, so I just stood at a different urinal for a few seconds and promptly left. He was blatantly watching me the whole time. I get about halfway to the truck when I see he's following me. I begin to run and so does he. I managed to barely get into the truck on time to lock the door behind me, where he's now pulling on the handle, breathing heavily. I begin to yell, wake up, and he pops up from the back like a meerkat. The guy locks eyes with my dad and quickly makes a 180 into a minivan and they speed off. I've honestly never given it all that much thought since it happened, probably just tried to repress it or something. Having typed it out, I'm kind of shaking a little. TL, doctor. 13-year-old me almost got kidnapped at a rest stop in the middle of the night. Me and my friend were fishing in a spot near our neighborhood. A man surprised us and said he was a nature photographer. He asked to take pictures of us for $5. We said yes, that was 2 slices, 2 Cokes and several games of Galaxin at the pizza place near us. He wanted to take pictures of our feet. Huh? Okay. Then he offered us $20 to be naked. This was just around the time the Adam Walsh movie was making people more aware of nutcases. Even kids were getting a little smarter. I politely said no because I was still raised to be a polite, respectful Catholic boy. My friend was trying to get me to do it, but our neighbor was coming down the trail and the guy took off. We told our folks and didn't get to fish by ourselves for a while. If you see my bare feet on the dark web, see if you can get the photographer's name. My 90-year-old dad wants to talk to him still. When I was in my 20s, I got home from a business trip in the middle of the day and was driving back to my office from the airport, which involved being on the interstate for 50 miles or so. This was in the 80s, and cell phones weren't a thing yet. An old car with 2 men inside starts following me, then they pull up beside me. The man in the passenger seat tells me that one of my back wheels is about to come off the car. Okay, well, my car was fairly new and was running fine as far as I could tell. No handling problems, nothing. I remembered that an upcoming exit had a full-service gas station with an attached mechanic's shop, so I exited there, and the men in the other car followed me. I rolled up to the entrance to the mechanic's shop, where I was sure there would be people around, and opened my window. Out walked this absolute mountain of a mechanic. I mean, he was over 6 feet tall, and a good 275 pounds. I told him that the men in the car who followed me said my back wheel was about to come off, but I didn't think there was a problem. Anyway, giant mechanic men started ambling over to the car that had followed me, and they very quickly hauled ass out of there and got back on the interstate. I wish I could have got their number plates. I didn't even think about how sketchy the whole situation was until it was over. I forget who, but there was a serial killer around that time who would try to use that trick and get women to pull over in order for him to help them. I think he'd then actually tamper with their tires to get them to crash or something. Glad you made it safely. I was once robbed at knife point. I'm a pretty tall guy, 6 feet 2 inches, but I was pretty skinny then. I had just bought Worms for the PC and Menswear Nuisance album. Was talking the escalator down on Argyle Street in Glasgow. Guy comes up next to me and asks me for the time. I tell him I died and have a watch. He then pulls out the knife, probably about 3 to 4 inches long, and says, "Give me the bag," and I hand him over the bag. We are now at the bottom of the escalator and he asks me if I have any other money. I pulled out a load of change from my pocket and give him that. He asks if I have anything else. I say no. I then ask him if I can have my train fare home. He gives me 50p and says, "What do you need?" I said I needed a £1, meaning swap it for the 50p, so he gives me that as well. He then tells me to walk away and he goes back up the escalator. Mugged and got a £1 and 50p refund. I don't think there was a conductor on the train, so I kept my £1 and 50p. When I was 9 or so, I went to the bathroom in a restaurant that was in a mall, peed at the urinal, and a big mentally disabled guy was standing behind me. When I turned around, he frightened me and said he wanted to show me something, and grabbed my wrists and tried to pull me into the stall. I pulled my arms but he would not let go. When I was 9, I thought he either wanted to show me a giant shit or hurt me in the stall. Just as he was pulling me across the stall threshold, he let go of one wrist to close the stall door. I kicked him pretty hard in the leg and pulled my other arm away and got free. Ran out to my family that was eating in the restaurant and sat down. I didn't say anything, but they all knew something happened because I was white in shock. And just then the guy was speed walking out of the bathroom, leaving the restaurant. My mom said, "What happened?" I just said, "That guy tried to pull me into the stall," and my 70-year-old grandmother jumped up and chased him. Before I finished talking, they made it to the mall, and just by chance there was an undercover mall security guy sitting outside the restaurant and tackled the guy cause my grandmother was yelling to "Get that guy." You can't end the story there, this isn't complete. What happened after he got caught? We went to the security office in the mall. I was in one room, the guy was in the other room next door. When the police showed up, the guy went HAM. We could hear him smashing and punch the wall in the next room. I think he fought the police when they go in the room. I told the police officers what happened. The restaurant gave us our meal at no charge and a gift certificate for $150, I think, for a being brave kid, and the mall security gave me a couple vending machine toys from the $1 vendor thing. We went home. Not sure what happened to the guy after that. I was 9, my mom handled that, I guess. TLDR, trust your gut if you think someone is a creep. Also, teenage male rapists are sometimes less smart when all their blood is in their dick. I think a sophomore in high school, maybe junior, it was a long time ago, and was invited to a casual hangout with about 5 other kids from school. One of the guys there had just graduated, Tim, and the another was a few years older, and it was his house. I'd never really liked him because he would always do this thing where he blocked me in when talking to me by putting his hands against a wall or lockers and lock his elbows, so I'd have to awkwardly duck under them to get out of the conversation. I asked where the restroom was and Tim offered to show me. He lead me to a room, half pushed me in, and shut the door and locked it behind us. He then tried to rape me, at first more coerced me into sex, then when I refused, getting physical and pushing me down and trying to undo my pants. I fought and told him to get off me and tried everything I could to get him off me, but he was just stronger. Pretty much just him repeating, "You know you want it," as he was pinning me down as I struggled. I had an idea and instead of fighting, kissed him back and asked to get on top. We were both still clothed at this point, but my jeans were undone and he let me on top of him, but was still gripping my arms. I kissed him again and said, "Let me take my shirt off, baby." He let me go and leaped off the bed, ran to the door. He got there just as I opened it and he slammed it shut. I tried literally the exact same tactic again, and the second time I got out of the room and into an adjacent one and locked the door. He knocked and tried to coax me out, saying he's sorry and would stop, but he couldn't help himself, etc. I stayed in the room until he apparently got bored and I could see him leave the doorway. I silently slipped out and left through the back door, leaving my shoes and purse behind. Where was everyone else? Who knows? Never hung out with that crowd again, and a guy friend returned for my stuff.